South Jersey's official play-by-play home of the Eagles, Sixers, and Flyers.
At 0 point would I ever consider not being a fan of the team.
97.3 ESPN, WENJ, WENJ HD, Millville, Atlantic City. A Town Square media station serving all of South Jersey. This is Game Night with Josh Hennig.
It's good!
On 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
And he scored!
Now live from inside the Ocean Casino Resort Studio, here's Josh Hennig.
Josh Hennig here as we look ahead to Eagles and Giants this Sunday. Of course, you can hear the action right here on 97.3 ESPN FM and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City. Plenty of that conversation going on this hour. Longtime Eagles beat writer and 97.3 ESPN.com sports columnist Dave Weinberg will join us coming up in about 15 minutes from now. And then coming up at 6:40 tonight, we will talk with Charlotte Carroll. She covers the Giants for The Athletic because both the Eagles and the Giants have injuries of note. Okay. I think it's going to be very interesting as we get closer to this game, because when I tell you some of the injuries that we're talking about right now, these injuries could very well make the difference in really how this game is game planned. So we'll get to all that coming up here on 97.3 ESPN. As always, you guys can join the conversation, 609-403-0973. Your DMs into the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. So let's first get you the latest from the injury report. And we're going to start with the Eagles because if we're being realistic, the Eagles are probably the injury report that I personally have the most questions about. You know, the Eagles are a team that came out of the game. And again, we spent so much time talking about Nick Sirianni. We didn't spend enough time talking about the injuries that were sustained in the game. Well, we at least have confirmation about one of the injuries. Dallas Goedert did not participate in practice today. This was Nick Sirianni during his press conference earlier today talking about the Eagles tight end, Dallas Goedert.
I don't expect him to, I don't expect him to do much at practice today. We'll see how that goes. Yeah, I don't ever want to put a cap on a guy that I know is going to work his butt off to get back. And, so we'll see. I mean, he's tough. Dallas is ultra tough. And if anybody can get back to playing faster than what you might anticipate, it's Dallas.
So that's a very interesting note from Nick Sirianni, that Dallas Goedert is a guy that they're not going to say will not play on Sunday, but he's definitely not practicing today because of that hamstring injury. The Eagles also told you 2 days ago that Jordan Mailata's hamstring will probably keep him out for the time being. So if you're not going to have Dallas Goedert and you're not going to have Jordan Mailata, you are going to be at least down 2 key starters for your offense. Now, the expectation is currently that Fred Johnson will probably play left tackle, and then Grant Calcaterra will fill in as the number 1 tight end. Both of those moves being interesting because you saw what happened this past Sunday. Calcaterra had some good plays in the game. He had a couple quality, positive catches that contributed to the team's success. Fred Johnson looked way better playing in relief in New Orleans than he did when he started the very next week against the Bucs. Now, was that because the Bucs have a better, are they a more difficult matchup for someone like Fred Johnson versus the Saints? Or will the Giants do what the Bucs did, which is now they have a full week to prepare to attack Fred Johnson? They basically tell the Eagles, your move, boy, your move to figure this out, because we're not changing our game plan for you. So that's definitely a part of the conversation here. So as of right now, Mailata and Goddard are not on track to play this Sunday. The other injury of interest, I would say, is Milton Williams. Ankle injury. He was the third player who did not participate today. If the Eagles are down a man on the defensive line, how does that impact the playing time for Carter and for Davis? Do we see more Moro Ojomo and Thomas Booker in that case? Do we see more Carter and Davis taking up the reps for Williams? We'll have to wait and see how that plays out, but it's definitely something to keep an eye on because we know the Giants' offense is not very good, okay? Daniel Jones, not an elite quarterback, but he can run around if you don't contain him. You saw that in the Seattle game a couple weeks ago. The other injury I'm looking and keeping an eye on is Darius Slay. Now, Slay is listed as a limited participant with a knee issue. So usually when you're limited, that means you should have the opportunity to practice during the week and potentially play on Sunday. Slay is going to be an interesting name along with Sidney Brown to keep an eye on. If Sidney Brown is back and Darius Slay is back, how does that impact the playing time of guys in the secondary? You saw Cooper DeJean be used in a multitude of different situations on defense. He was a slot corner. He almost lined up as an outside linebacker a couple times, as a roving safety almost at times. So if that's how they used him, where does Sidney Brown fit into all of this? Does Sidney Brown take time away from Breed Blankenship? Do they slowly work Brown into the game plan? Does he just play on special teams for the time being? So some interesting questions coming out of that for the Eagles. Now, for the Giants, I am very curious about this. Brian Burns did not participate in practice today with a groin injury. Now, according to reports, Brian Burns has been dealing with this groin injury since NFL Week 3. We are entering NFL Week 7 this week. So that means Brian Burns has been hobbled for a month. So even if he plays, he is nowhere near 100%. That is a huge blow for that defense. Also, Dexter Lawrence, hip, did not participate in practice. So that's two of their best defensive linemen who were did not participate in practice today. Now, again, Burns has been playing through that injury. And according to reports, they are being extra careful with Dexter Lawrence. So, but again, even if those guys play this Sunday, they are not going to be 100%. So that is some good news for the Eagles when it comes to the Giants injury report, that two of their best defensive players, even if they do play, they will not be 100%. The other injury of note to keep an eye on is, I want to remind everyone that Andrew Thomas is basically done for the year. He is not going to play in this game. He is not going to play the rest of the year. So can the Eagles take advantage of the edge with no Andrew Thomas out there? The good news for the Giants is Malik Neighbors, limited participant at practice. He is progressing through the concussion protocol. He is on track to return this week. And the hope is they have both Neighbors and Slayton available for the Giants. Again, another reason why you want to make sure you have Slay and everyone healthy on the back end of the Eagles defense, because the Giants are still a threat. They are a scrappy team. They have been competitive in multiple games this year. They have shown you in the game against the Browns, in the game against the Seahawks, they are not a team to be overlooked. They are a team to be taken seriously. And this is a divisional game. Do not go into this game thinking it's going to be a walkover. The way the Eagles offense has been playing, they are an inconsistent, and they are not a team that you can depend on. Lane Johnson said the offense is constipated. And I wouldn't know if I would go that far, but I think he makes a good point aside from the funny analogy. Take a listen.
I feel like a very constipated offense. We do some good things. we have all the stability, but we have yet to prove, that we can hit on all cylinders. So that's definitely something that's going to be on our mind, moving forward. That's something we got to fix, especially starting fast. We haven't done that in 2 years, so push ourselves in the bind.
That last part is the key. Dave Weinberg, longtime Eagles beat writer and our 97.3 ESPN.com sports columnist, joins me for a Weinberg Wednesday next. It's been 2 years since the Eagles started a game fast. We'll get Dave Weinberg's perspective on that coming up next on 97.3 ESPN FM and 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea City.
Wake up weekday mornings from 6 to 10 a.m. with Unsportsmanlike on 97.3 ESPN with Evan Cohen, Super Bowl champion Chris Canty, and Michelle Small.
Can't wake up without it.
Brought to you by the Gallery Bar Book and Games at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City.
In business, service is everything. Cintas delivers what you need to better serve your customers. Whether it's freshly laundered work apparel for almost any job imaginable, tested and inspected fire protection systems, first aid and safety supplies, on-site AED training, or mops and restroom products, stocked and ready when you need them. Better work days happen together. So visit Cintas.com.
Oh, I'm ready!
And get ready for the workday.
With GMF financing to qualified buyers excludes Traverse and Corvette excludes prior sales.
Need a car, truck, or SUV? Great! Get to Bennett Chevy, where you're going to get Bennett's best offers ever. You know Bennett sells new Chevys at the true GM supplier employee price, right? Well, right now, Bennett Chevrolet says, how'd you like to buy your new Chevy and pay $500 below the GM supplier employee price? Yes, $500 less than our employees. Plus, you keep all the rebates. That's up to 15% off the sticker. And with available 0% financing, you'll have incredibly low payments. And if you've got an old car to trade, right now you'll get a minimum $10,000 towards any pre-owned vehicle in stock. That's at least $10,000 for total junk. Imagine how much we'll pay for good trades. And wait till you experience Bennett's non-commissioned sales team. Paid on your satisfaction, not how much you spend. So they'll make getting all these unbelievable deals even better. Together, let's drive. Bennett Chevy, Egg Harbor Township, and BennettChevy.com.
Presenting a Gain Flings love story. Dear love of my life, we were on the 12B bus this morning when I caught a whiff. A scent so fresh, so life-changing, I had to find its source. Alas, I didn't know if you were the woman in the pink freshly washed cardigan or the retired mailman next to me, but I knew one of you was my soulmate. Ah, the scent of Gain Flings. Try Gain Flings with OxyBoost and Febreze.
With fall savings at the Home Depot, you can get up to $1,600 off select appliances from top brands like Samsung, ranked #1 in customer satisfaction. Wash and dry in one cycle with the Samsung Ultra Capacity All-in-One Washer-Dryer Combo from the Home Depot. And get laundry day done faster, running a super speed load in just 98 minutes. Right now, save up to $1,600 and financing on select appliances with fall savings at the Home Depot. How doers get more done. Pricing about September 26th through October 16th. U.S. only. See store online for details. Visit jdpower.com/awards for more details.
This is the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network.
Progressive Insurance presents the Sports Flash on 97.3 ESPN. NHL, the Flyers will be in Seattle Thursday night as they take on the Kraken, and this wraps up the 4-game road trip to begin the season. Philadelphia losing to the Edmonton Oilers Tuesday night 4-3 in overtime. 97.3 ESPN will have that game for you immediately after our coverage of Thursday night football between the Saints and the Broncos. NBA, the Sixers hosting the Brooklyn Nets tonight in preseason play. 2 more exhibition games remaining before the regular season starts next week against the Milwaukee Bucks. Forward Paul George has a bone bruise in his left knee. He suffered that injury on Monday against the Atlanta Hawks. He'll be evaluated next week. NFL week number 7, the Eagles will be at MetLife Stadium to take on the Giants. Philadelphia coming off a win at home against Cleveland. They are 3-2 on the season. The Giants, who are only averaging 16 points per game, are 2-4. 97.3 ESPN has that game for you Sunday starting at noon. I'm Tony Desiri, and that's your Sports Flash on 97.3 ESPN.
Tune in to the Bet365 Play of the Day during the Sports Bash with me, Mike Gill, every weekday afternoon at 5:45 on 97.3 ESPN. Made possible by Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. From the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network, I'm Chief Meteorologist Dan Zarrow. There's a storm system brewing off the North Carolina coast this evening. As it passes by tomorrow, it could spit a few raindrops our way. Immediate coast only. I think west of the Parkway should stay high and dry yet again. It's going to be cold tonight. Clear skies, low of 40. Lots of sunshine tomorrow with some clouds and a slight chance of a shower near the coast, high 61. Sunshine and warming up Friday, high 67. Get weather 24/7 wherever you are. Download our free mobile app today.
97.3 ESPN has teamed up with Seize the Deal for incredible weekly offers from some fantastic local restaurants. Here's this week's big deal.
Get a $50 gift card, good for use at the Ravioli House in Wildwood for just $25.
Get this great deal starting Friday at 9 a.m. at seizethedeal.com. Hurry, chances are this deal will sell quickly. For more info on this great deal, go to seizethedeal.com.
SeizeTheDeal.com. This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
We'll get back to the text board in just a bit at 609-403-0973. Your DMs into the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. But as promised, it is a Weinberg Wednesday. Dave Weinberg joining us here on 97.3 ESPN. Dave, welcome in. How you doing today? I see you're in your car again.
Yeah, on my way into Gusto Brewery again. I just came from a machine pitch minor league baseball game, so kind of in between events right now.
Yeah, it's every time you say machine pitch, all I think of is Terminator, and Skynet to become self-aware, and one day these things are going to be the end of us. But anyway, that's a conspiracy theory for another day. Here's another conspiracy theory for you, David. I made this comment on Monday, and I wanted to just throw it back to you because I know you and I have both been on the same page with our unhappiness with Nick Sirianni at times. You probably being a little more frustrated than even I have. But I said it on Monday. I've come to the dark side. Like, to me, after what I saw on Sunday and listening to his whatever you want to call that apology on Monday, whatever that was, half-ass, these Zooms, when they don't have the media in the building and the guy's just sitting there in a room with his just big head on the screen, it's just such a bad optic to ask a guy, hey, go on a press conference and try to have a sincere apology. And even if he was sincere, the sound and look of it was just so bad. So I feel like, Dave, the organization is aiding and abetting an immature individual to be paid millions of dollars to have a job to which he frankly has done things in public that would get everyone else fired except him.
Yeah, it's really hard to believe that he's still there. I mean, I know he's going to last the rest of the year, and barring some sort of a total meltdown or whatever. But yeah, it's really befuddling though, the way he acts, the way he behaves. I just don't understand why they would permit that kind of unprofessionalism. Joining with fans of your own team, joining with opposing players. It's just taking your kids to the press conference. It's just the whole thing is just borderline bizarre.
Yeah, first of all, bringing the kids to the press conference, if that wasn't enough, I mean, you're dropping the S word 3 times in front of your kids. You're saying ASS multiple times, like, oh, my bad. It's like, I said it on Monday, like, this dude needs intervention. Like, I don't need him to apologize, Dave. He needs the quote unquote adults in the Eagles organization to put him in a room, bring his wife in there, and just lay into him. Because, again, Dave, if I ever did the things that Nick Sirianni did in a professional capacity in my job, my parents would call me, my boss would call me, my friends would call me, maybe even you would text me, be like, what is wrong with you? Like, people in my life would say something to me. And it's like, this guy, it's like, who are the people in his life checking him? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, well, bottom line is the organization should be checking him. Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman. I mean, they should be the ones that are, look, Nick, this is not the way this is not the Philadelphia Eagles way. This is not how we conduct ourselves. This is not how we act. We hired you to do a job as a football coach. Time to act like the adult in the room, and you're not doing that so far. And I don't understand why they're enabling this, so to speak. I mean, that apology was, that was insincere. That was half-hearted. I don't know, like, I don't know if there's I don't know what it's going to take to curtail him to get him to rein him back in, I guess.
Yeah, the whole situation is bizarre. And now we have an Eagles team that Dave is actually getting ready for a pretty important game because
Yes.
I know the fans on the outside look at the Giants, and this is why I'm going to have Charlotte Carroll from The Athletic come on after you today because you look at this Giants team. And I know at the beginning of the season we made fun of them because of Hard Knocks and everything, but their defense is playing well. I mean,
Yeah,
they
are.
made the Bengals look bad at times on prime time last week. And this is a team that has now played. I mean, they beat up the Browns. The Eagles had trouble with the Browns. They went to Seattle, did something the Eagles haven't done in 8 years? They won in
Right.
Seattle.
Yeah.
They're a feisty team. So yeah, this is a supposed win on the schedule, Dave, but it's not going to be easy.
Not by any stretch. The way the Eagles are playing and the way the Giants are playing, I foresee a really, really close game here. Going into Giants Stadium. The Giants are not a good team, but neither are the Eagles, and they're playing tough, like you said, especially defensively. I mean, they're having trouble scoring, but their defense is legit. And as you mentioned earlier, I guess the Eagles haven't scored a first quarter point all year. The only NFL team to do so. So if they stumble out of the gate again and get off to a fast start, that gives the Giants a little bit of confidence, gives their fans a little bit of confidence. I could foresee. I hate to think they could lose it, but I guess it's not out of the realm of possibility.
I mean, it's not out of the possibility for sure. Dave Weinberg joining us here on a Weinberg Wednesday here on 97.3 ESPN. Extra point columns over at 97.3 ESPN.com. Yes, it's not beyond the possibility they could lose the game. But what's worse than losing the game, Dave, is that if you have 2 straight weeks where you edge out teams you're supposed to win, what is the optic of that?
Right. I mean, mathematically, it doesn't mean anything, but it's hard to see them, establishing themselves as legit contenders, playing the way they're playing. And granted, that doesn't matter. I know they're still only 1 game behind the Commanders in the division, and the playoff is still very much a possibility with only 5 games in. But yeah, if you keep stumbling and you wind up and you lose a game you're supposed to win, which looks like that might happen sometimes, and they have a stretch here where they should go 3-0, 2-1, 4-0, 3-1. I don't know, but if they don't, then I have a hard time believing that the fans are going to stick with them. I mean, they're probably on the fence right now as it is.
And I think part of the reason why you just mentioned it on the fence, can we touch on that really quick?
Sure.
It's in part because of the other teams. The way the Phillies ended their season, and
Oh, sure. Yeah.
The way they flamed out. I mean, Dave, you've covered this city for years. Like, it was almost like the Eagles, they weren't forgotten about, but when the Phillies went to the World Series those 2 straight years in 08, 09, it was like, hey, we got the Phillies to cheer for. Who cares about Donovan McNabb for a couple of weeks? You know what I mean? Like, that was kind of the attitude in the city. And now Phillies fizzle out. Sixers, I mean, half the city doesn't care. Let's be realistic. They're so over that team. I mean, there's a handful of us who care about the Flyers, but they're on the West Coast every night. They're at 10 o'clock. Half people are asleep. Okay.
Right.
So it's like so many eyeballs right now are on the Eagles, Dave.
Yeah. The worst possible scenario for them was for the Phillies to do what they did. Like you're right. When the Phillies were going well, all the focus was on them, and the town was excited. Red October and all that, and then now you're right. It's back to Eagle Green rather than Phillies Red, and the pressure's on. I mean, they had a little bit of a grace period, a little bit of a break there with the Phillies in the playoffs, with the fact that I don't want to say choked, but the fact that they lost. It's almost like the Philly fans are like, what's going to happen now? I mean, why can't we have nice things, that kind of thing,
Right.
and they're just waiting for the Eagles to fall apart now. They're just waiting for that, for that little bit of an excuse to go bonkers.
Speaking of excuses, Dave, again, and I'm not saying this to aid you, but you have seen a lot of different iterations of football. I'll put it, okay? You saw.
I didn't see the single wing, but that's okay. Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say you saw the Donovan McNabb era. You saw the Chip Kelly fiasco, right? You saw the Doug Peterson years, and now you're seeing this. How much of this offense do we blame on the quarterback, and how much do we blame on the offensive coordinator? Because I'm kind of in a tug of war here, because on one hand, wasn't Kellen Moore brought in here to fix the offense? But on the other hand, damn, Dave, when I go back and rewatch that game, I see, those are predetermined throws. Some of those throws by Jalen Hurts, like he is not scanning the field. So it's like, where do we weigh the balance of blame here?
They both have to share in it, I think. I mean, like you said, Kellen was brought in to fix what was wrong, and then clearly he hasn't. And Jalen Hurts is what is wrong, and he's just not the same player he was 2 years ago. I don't know why. Last year, I guess it was because of injury, and this year, though, I'm not sure what the problem is. I mean, he does make great throws on occasion. He does break loose for gains on occasion, but the consistency isn't there. And clearly the offense is stumbling, and I guess you have to blame Kellen Moore because he's the guy. He's the guy in charge of whether. I'm sure Sirianni has his thumbprint in there as well, but this is like what Hurts' fourth coordinator in 4 years or something like that. So it's kind of tough for him to gain some consistency, but I was really expecting more out of him to this point this year.
Yeah, it's just so weird because it's like, and you're right. We may never know who's really in charge of some of these decisions around this team.
Mm-hmm. We do know Sirianni did not make a defensive call, right? According to Fangio.
Fangio, first of all, Fangio is my favorite. Can I just say that? Fangio, for those who didn't watch the video, and I'll play the audio, Fangio, the look on his face when he was asked about it, just the perplexedness. Like he looked like an uncle at Thanksgiving who's being asked about TikTok. Like he looked like he was like, what is this question that you're asking me? Here's the audio that Dave Weinberg is talking about.
It wasn't a defensive call. It was just a situation thing to where he just said, hey, be alert for this. He didn't call it defense.
So what was the situation then that he?
It was just when they had the ball near midfield, it was 3rd and long. He said, hey, be alert that they may check it down or something, They're trying to get in field goal range.
And Sirianni's answer when they followed up to him today about it, he said, I probably gave you too much information. Like, really, Nick?
Really? Wow.
The bizarre. And then, of course, they asked Fangio at one point, they're like, oh, is this normal? Like a coach would have a conversation with you during the game. It's like, yeah, this is a normal conversation. This isn't out of the ordinary. Like, and he just had a look on his face the whole time, Dave, like, what is this gibberish you're asking me? Like, why is this a question?
Yep. The whole thing was just ridiculous.
By the way, I do feel a little bad for Fangio because, the dude is a longtime coordinator in the league. And, the Eagles did not hand him the best defensive roster in the world.
No, but I think they're underperforming, though, to be honest. On paper, I thought they were going to be pretty solid, except for the linebackers, of course. But you have those two behemoths in the middle of the defensive line. Neither one of them is. Jaden Carter has one great game, one great play a game, but then kind of like disappears, and Jordan Davis hasn't done much at all. The edge rushers. Josh Sweat had his first decent game on Sunday. Bryce Huff still hasn't done. I don't know where they saw a half sack from him, but that's another thing. But he's just been a total disappointment. And I don't know if that's Fangio or if that's the talent though.
By the way, I'll tell you where the half sack came from. The half sack there was that play that Jalen Carter blew up the center and the guard of the Browns, and the Browns offensive line was scrambling. And then just Huff kind of just came in and just was like, oh, look, someone else is tackling him. I'll jump on top.
Yeah, one of those. Yeah, we used to see that in high school all the time. We'll pad your step. I try to jump on the pile. Maybe they'll give me a tackle for that.
Yeah, that's literally what happened. Like, if you go back and watch the play, like Huff kind of like comes around the corner and it's like, wait a minute, nobody's blocking me. Oh, look, the quarterback might go down. Let's do this.
Right.
A moment of you see the light bulb goes off above his head.
Yep. You better hope more light bulbs go off pretty soon.
Yeah, that guy has been a complete busteroni. By the way, can I ask you this really quick before I let you go? Because you did cover the Eagles during the TO years, and the agent was Drew Rosenhaus. So Hassan Reddick fired his agents, hires Drew Rosenhaus, and the very next day, the Jets grant his request to look for a trade. I mean, I got to get your thoughts on that because, I mean, Drew Rosenhaus has been around this game a long time. And to me, it says something that if he just walks in and is like, hey, let's negotiate the contract, the Jets are like, nope, we'll trade him.
Yeah, I didn't think he wielded that kind of power still. I mean, he's kind of like the Scott Boras of the NFL. At least he was, and I guess he still is, for them to kind of like, listen to whatever he has to say and grant him that wish. I mean, I would imagine that Reddick's been lobbying for a trade for a while now, and they didn't acquiesce to his demands until Rosenhaus walked in. I guess it shows like how powerful he still is with the kind of clout that he still has in the league.
It's just so wild to me because like when Rosenhaus was interviewed by the media, the Monday Night Football, right?
Yep.
He was telling guys, like Tom Pelissaro of NFL Network and Mike Garafolo, all those guys, he was telling them, I'm here to get Hassan Reddick a contract with the Jets. And then the Jets, what do? They're like, never mind.
Like, yeah, right.
Like, I would have loved to be a fly on the wall in that conversation, Yeah,
I agree. Yeah, I'm surprised the Jets would do that. I would have thought they would have kind of like played hardball here, kind of put their toe the line in the sand and dug in. If he doesn't want to play, then he's not going to play. But I'm surprised that they would kind of like let him have his way.
Well, I think if I remember the stat correctly, Joe Douglas is now 29-60 as the GM of the Jets. So
there you go.
I'll just let that marinate out there for all the Jet fans who are not going to be mad at me. Dave Weinberg joining me for a Weinberg Wednesday at Dave Weinberg 19 on Twitter X platform, Extra Point columns over at 97.3 ESPN.com. And now he is off the Quizzo at Gusto Brewing in North Cape May.
I'll tell him you said hi.
Absolutely. Tell Zach I said hello. Talk to you later, Dave.
All right, Josh. Thanks again as always. I appreciate it. Talk to you next week.
Absolutely. Dave Weinberg here on 97.3 ESPN FM and 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City. Of course, we are live here in the Ocean Casino Resort Studios. A couple texts squeeze in before we get the break. George from Summers Point chimes in, says, hey, Josh, I love Weinberg Wednesdays. I love that you have come over to the dark side in your opinion of Sirianni. Your decision was well thought out and expressed. George from Summers Point. Yeah, it's I probably should have queued up some Star Wars music for that. Danny HT chimes in and says, I feel like this Eagles game on Sunday is going to be a blowout. They are due for a breakout offensively. They're only a bad game so far was the loss in Tampa, and it was super hot, not a normal football game or weather, and don't forget about the injuries. Listen, Dan, I do get it. They should be 4-1 right now if it wasn't for Saquon dropping the ball. I do think there is something to all that. That's at least how I look at it for me. So that can't be discounted. But the problem for the Eagles is Lane Johnson said, he's like, look, we haven't started out hot in the game. We haven't started out well in the game in 2 years. Well, who was the offensive coordinator back then? It was Shane Steichen. There is something to be said for the fact that the 2 times in Jalen Hurts' life that he has been a high-level quarterback was 2022 with Shane Steichen and 2019 at Oklahoma with Lincoln Riley. The rest of his football life in college and the NFL, he has been an above-average quarterback who has had 2 top-tier seasons. There's something to be said for that. There's something that Steichen and Riley were telling Hurts that these other guys are not telling them. And I don't know what that is, but Kellen Moore needs to figure it out and figure it out quick. All right. More your text a little bit later this hour, 609-403-0973. Your DMs into the 973 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. Coming up next, perspective on the Giants, where Charlotte Carroll from The Athletic joins me here on 973 ESPN. Josh Hennig hanging out with you on a Wednesday night.
This is South Jersey's official home for Philadelphia Eagles football. The Eagles continue the 2024 season this Sunday in New Jersey against their NFC East rival Giants.
He's going to go! Touchdown! Saquon Barkley!
Listen to all the action with Merrill Reese and Mike Quick with pregame coverage starting at noon and kickoff at 1 p.m. This is the play-by-play home of the Philadelphia Eagles, 97.3 ESPN, South Jersey's Eagles station.
Save thousands at Matt Blatt Kia. Get out of your old trade today, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. Go to mattblattkianj.com for more details. That's mattblattkianj.com.
It's gotta be a
Matt Blatt Kia.
What's better than one win? 3 wins. With Straight Savings, you keep your own phone, get one line for only $25 a month with real unlimited data, and get rewarded with a $200 phone credit after 12 months. It's a win-win-win. Head to Walmart or visit straighttalk.com today. Switch to Straight Talk. Less dollars, more sense. Straight Savings Plan enrollment requires compatible unlocked device and new line of service. Bonus device credit requires 12 months of active service. Offer ends if eligibility requirements are no longer met. Taxes and fees apply. For network management practices, see Straight Talk's terms and conditions.
It's common knowledge that after age 30, our metabolism changes. We have less energy and gain weight easier. There's a way to feel better, not in years or months, but sometimes in just days.
I'm Chuck Norris. I tried everything. Working with a team of health experts, we came up with Morning Kick. Morning Kick is a revolutionary new formula that combines all my favorite supplements into one daily drink.
Morning Kick has probiotics to help you lose weight, prebiotics for digestion, superfoods for muscles and joints, and powerful anti-aging supplements. It'll help you feel youthful, energized, and helps manage stress.
I look and feel better than I have in years.
Go to roundhouseprovisions.com, use code SUPPORT, or text SUPPORT to 511-511 and claim 40% off. roundhouseprovisions.com, code SUPPORT.
Every purchase comes with our 90-day money-back guarantee. You could be feeling these changes within just a couple of days.
Text SUPPORT to 511-511.
These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Tax fees may apply.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? I think my battery's dead. With free battery testing and charging, we can help you get back on the road.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
So what if I need a new one? We have the right Duralast battery for you, only at AutoZone.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
And what about my old battery? We can recycle it right here at America's #1 battery destination.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Presenting a Gain Flings love story. Dear love of my life, we were on the 12B bus this morning when I caught a whiff. A scent so fresh, so life-changing, I had to find its source. Alas, I didn't know if you were the woman in the pink freshly washed cardigan or the retired mailman next to me, but I knew one of you was my soulmate. Ah, the scent of Gain Flings. Try Gain Flings with OxyBoost and Febreze.
Progressive presents good news, bad news, dumb news, then great news. Good news. A letter in your mailbox says you could save money bundling your home and auto insurance with Progressive. Bad news. You saw it after your teenager backed the car into the mailbox. Dumb news. A new mailbox, basically a box on a stick, costs up to $400. Great news. You decide to see if you could save money bundling at Progressive.com and go with paperless mail instead. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers not available in all states.
Good morning, Doctor. Doctor? Hi, Doctor. Doctor?
Dr. Jackson's practice is growing.
What do you mean we're still short-staffed?
He needs a good patient doctor.
How do we not have enough doctors to doctor all these patients?
And he doesn't have the patience to sift through hundreds of resumes.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. When you sponsor a job on Indeed, it's easier for talented candidates to find it, which makes it easier for you to hire them. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Academy Award nominee Chaz Palminteri brings his original one-man show, A Bronx Tale, to Ovation Hall and Ocean Casino Resort Friday, April 11th. Experience this critically acclaimed one-man show that will take you back to the Bronx in the 1960s. A Bronx Tale, written and performed by Chaz Palminteri. Friday, April 11th at Ovation Hall and Ocean Casino Resort. Tickets go on sale Friday, October 18th at 10 a.m. Visit oceanac.com. That's oceanac.com.
Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and on the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City.
we have a lot of Giant fans in our area. I'm very well aware of that, especially because I'm going to be at Doyle's Poorhouse in Tuckerton this Sunday for our Eagles Giants watch party. So let's get a perspective right now on the Giants as we get ready to look ahead to what is going to be, we believe, a more difficult game for the Eagles than maybe we thought of before this season. Charlotte Carroll, she covers the Giants for The Athletic, and she joins us right now on the phone line here on 97.3 ESPN. Charlotte, welcome in. How you doing today?
Doing good. Thanks so much for having me on. Always fun to chat Eagles Giants.
Absolutely. And let's start with this. I mentioned before you came on, I want to know from you, coming into this year, there were a lot of us who were like, man, look at the fiasco of the Giants on Hard Knocks. And now you look at the Giants coming into this game, and I think the optics are a lot different here in week 7 than it was a couple months ago.
No, definitely. I mean, I think you say optics. I think just like the storyline surrounding this week, like we all thought it would be Saquon. And it is that way to an extent. But just the Giants record at 2-4 and the way things stand, it's almost kind of like this feels, the Saquon storyline is less of a big deal than we all anticipated, is at least kind of how it feels. But we'll see, of course, on Sunday if that lives up to the hype.
One of the big storylines for me, Charlotte, is the Giants defense. When they acquired Brian Burns, the thought was, wow, they really upgraded their defense. So what is the Giants defense at this point? I know Burns has been dealing with a groin injury since week 3 now. So, what is with the Giants defense? Why have they performed the way they have?
Sure. First, a quick injury update. Burns missed practice today. We were able to speak with him in the locker room. He said he'll be fine. Expectation is that he'll play on Sunday. Just something, as you mentioned, that he's just kind of have to deal with and power through. But this defense has really come together, even without Kayvon Thibodeau, who's going to be out if he's on injured reserve. Azeez Ojulari has really stepped in, and it's just a very dominant front between Azeez Ojulari, Kayvon Thibodeau, Brian Burns. It's a very strong core group of guys, and they lead the league in sacks, which who would have thought?
You mentioned about Ojulari. Can I ask you about him real quick? Because I would almost argue that he might be a better player right now for this defense than Thibodeau was. Is that a fair assessment?
I don't know if it's fair. He's working. I think that's exactly what you want to see, and he's kind of fit in. And there was never a doubt from Brian Burns. We talked to him, I believe it was last week. He was kind of like, I've always had faith in his pass rush abilities, and as soon as he could step in, obviously that took an injury. But there's the confidence in him as a player, and so he's been able to kind of have an impact. And the key for Ojulari is staying healthy, because that's what's really limited him throughout his career.
Talking with Charlotte Carroll from The Athletic. She covers the New York Giants. Joining us here as head of Eagles Giants this Sunday. Of course, you hear the game. Mel Reese, Mike Quick calling all the action here on 97.3 ESPN. Charlotte, when you think about the Giants, they have a first-year coordinator. No more Wink Martindale here. So what has been for you the difference between Martindale last year and Bowen this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the personality is probably the most obvious one, and we could just highlight that Wink Martindale's big personality and the crazy defense that he brings, like the blitz crazy, kind of feeds into that. So while the Giants have had a ton of pressure, it's not that same format that they saw under Wink Martindale.
Flipping over to the offense, I saw that Malik Neighbors, he looks like he's progressing through protocol. What is the optimism about him for Sunday?
Yeah, no, he progressed through protocol. He was wearing a red non-contact jersey today in practice. So I think Brian Daboll has healthy optimism. They're not going to rush him. He's still their franchise's first round pick of this draft. They don't want to do anything too rash. So I think we'll see how the week goes, how he progresses through the protocol, and if they're able to clear him in time for Sunday, and if he progresses to that point.
Listen, I know it's not just other fan bases, but I've listened to the New York radio stations. I know that Daniel Jones is well made fun of across the football landscape. So for you, when you're watching the Giants, Charlotte, I want you to tell the audience, what have you seen from Daniel Jones that I would argue has made him better this year than he was last year?
This answer is completely different. It's the same answer, but it's kind of, you have to look at it through a new lens today. It was the offensive line play that he's been able to have this year. That's really made him consistent, or more consistent, I should say. It's been able to protect him, give him a little bit more time. The line has been consistent. But I say that with the caveat of now Andrew Thomas going through season-ending surgery for a Lisfranc injury. So that kind of really changes things up. So I'll be curious what that looks like on Sunday. We'll see what they do with left tackle. Josh Azudu kind of makes enough sense there, keeping Jermaine Illuminor at right tackle. So we'll see what they do. But I put a lot of credit to the offensive line and the consistency that they've been playing with up until this point.
You mentioned Thomas before his injury. You mentioned about how the offensive line has been playing well overall. That's the key. So then if the offensive line has been playing well, we know the Giants have played some interesting teams this year, but they haven't played a team with the kind of interior D linemen that the Eagles have. Sure, they played, Myles Garrett and the Browns and guys like Micah Parsons on the edge, but they haven't played a lot of teams with the beef in the middle. So how is the middle of the Giants O-line been this year?
I think it's been consistent. It's hard to say that definitively. John Michael Schmitz, actually, I haven't looked at the numbers recently this week, but when I was doing a rookie recap story last week, he was actually, I think he was one of the better guys in terms of pressures allowed and sacks allowed. I don't think he had allowed any sacks. So you have to give him credit for working well with the veterans, Greg Van Roten and John Runyon. So they've been able to kind of, provide a little bit of stability on the line as a whole. And it's a more veteran line than in years past at this point. With John Michael Schmitz in center, obviously that's going to change a little bit with Josh Azudu potentially coming in at left tackle, whatever they kind of decide to do there.
Charlotte Carroll from The Athletic joining us. A couple more for you before I let you go. Talk to us about Brian Dable, because I think there were people who looked at him and wondered, is he on the hot seat? Is he a coach that could be in trouble coming into this year? And so far, he has this team, I think, playing better than most people expected coming into the year. And he is only 2 years removed from a playoff appearance. I'm not saying the Giants are a playoff team, but what has Dable done this year to put this team in a position to be 2-4?
I mean, I think it's just, rolling with the punches, seeing what happens. In terms of his coaching stability, that's been the question of in the media market in New York of okay, he was getting job security questions in week 2. And I think he's, at this point, we'll see what happens, barring anything really crazy. Okay position, but there's a lot of football left to be played, a lot of crazy things that can happen within the course of the season.
Charlotte, before I let you go, I want to know from you, if this game is tied at halftime on Sunday, right? The Eagles and Browns was a close game up to the end. So if the Eagles and Giants ends up being a tie game, let's say at halftime, what is going to be the reason why?
I wouldn't be surprised if it is tied, to be honest. The way the two teams have played, the Giants kept it close with the Browns. I don't know if there's a specific reason. The Giants have been in close games all season long. They've not been blown out really beyond the first game. Sorry, I'm in New York, so the traffic is always fun. But that's just been the case. I don't expect it to be a blowout one way or the other.
Yeah, I don't think it's to be a blowout either, but I'm trying to paint a picture for the audience to help them understand that, listen, if you take the Vikings game out of the conversation, right, and you just look at week 2 to week 6, this is a Giants team that plays close games. But I think the majority of our audience who are Eagle fans, or maybe they're fans of other teams, they're still scratching their head trying to figure out how on earth the Giants a competitive team when they lost Saquon, when Malik Neighbors missed a couple of games due to the concussion. Daniel Jones is their quarterback. They have a new defensive coordinator. This team has so much that you can't put your finger on. So what is something that we can put our finger on?
The defense has been playing really well. They've had more consistent with each game. The defensive front of not Kayvon anymore, but Brian Burns and Dexter Lawrence. These have been really able to put a strong game together and keep it close. And we saw that in last week's game, or Sunday night's game. They really held it close. They limited the Bengals to 10 points until the very end of the game. So I think if we're looking at a very close game and limiting the Eagles' offense, it'll be the defense to thank for that. And if the offense can get going, if Malik is able to play, if the other receivers get going, we'll see if even Devin Singletary is back in there too to add a little bit more to the running game along with Tyrone Tracy. I think it depends to which Daniel Jones shows up to play on Sunday. Is it the Daniel who we saw in Seattle, or is it the Daniel we saw this past weekend in Sunday Night Football? So which one, and is the offense able to get going, might lend one way or the other of which team is leading?
She's Charlotte Carroll. She covers the New York Giants for The Athletic. Check out all of her work in The Athletic. Make sure you subscribe to get all of your coverage of the NFL year-round. And, of course, she joined us here on 97.3 ESPN. Charlotte, appreciate you jumping on, avoiding the taxis beeping at you in New York, and be safe out there, all right?
Thank you so much, and have a great night.
Josh Hennig here in the Ocean Casino Resort Studios here on 97.3 ESPN. I think the biggest takeaway I have from what Charlotte was saying is she kind of affirmed one of the points that I've been making about the Giants, which is that defense is legit. That defense has really shown up in a ton of games and been dangerous. And it goes to show you that, you know, the Giants might not have known what they were doing with Saquon Barkley, but they obviously knew what they were doing acquiring Brian Burns. And look, that guy, even on a messed up groin, is fighting through and making an impact on games. So we come back to the question of the opposite end of the spectrum. How do the Eagles avoid a close game with the Giants? And you heard Charlotte Church from The Athletic point out, she said, which Daniel Jones shows up? Well, that's a great question, because Daniel Jones has played better this year than last year, right? And if you go through his games, he was really good at Seattle on the road. Okay. He was really good on the road at Cleveland. But home against Dallas and home against Cincinnati, he didn't look so good. In fact, did you know the New York Giants have not won a home game this year? Yes, their 2 wins are both on the road this year. They are winless at home. So is Jones feeling too much pressure from the crowd? He feels he can play more freely on the road. Is it matchup based where, you know, going to Seattle and going to Cleveland were advantageous situations for the Giants? We are going to learn a lot about who the Eagles are, who the Giants are this Sunday at MetLife when the Eagles take on the Giants. Merrill Reese, Mike Quick calling all the action here in your home for the Eagles in South Jersey, 97.3 ESPN. Before we get out of here, I want to squeeze in one more text on the text board, 609-403-0973. Jeff from Ocean City chimes in and asks the question about if Cooper DeJean should actually be the punt returner for this team because they're going to need him on defense. The answer I have for that comment is, if you don't want Cooper DeJean to be the punt returner, then you should have spent more time in training camp in the preseason getting other guys ready for that job. And I know that sounds like a non-answer to an extent, but look, Cooper DeJean, part of the reason why he's here is because he is an elite athlete. Excuse me. Cooper DeJean is an elite athlete. This guy was an all-state basketball player. He has a phenomenal vertical leap. He is faster and more twitchy than you would think he is. And, you know, you look at guys like him and you say, if that is your best option when it comes to the punt return, I'm not going to worry about him getting injured, because anyone can get injured on any play. Cooper DeJean could be taken off of punt returns and be on a defensive play and actually get rolled up and sprain his ankle and be out for 2 weeks. You know, injuries can happen anytime. So I'm not the person who's going to play or not play a guy based on injury. I think it's an unfair way to go about it, especially when the guy can have a positive impact for you on special teams. All right. Thanks to Charlotte Carroll. Thanks, Dave Weinberg, for joining me today on the Power Hour known as Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Tomorrow, we have a very special guest. Adam Malamud will be joining us. He is the creator of Universal Basic Guys, the top comedy animated show on network television. They have a special episode about the Eagles and Giants. He's a big Eagles fan. He joins me tomorrow on 97.3 ESPN.
The playoffs continue on ESPN Radio.
It's a grand slam, Mark Viento. Totes.
After getting blown out of Game 1, the Mets respond with a huge Game 2 win. Now the series shifts to New York for Games 3, 4, and 5. Game 3 of the Dodgers and Mets. Coverage begins today at 7:30 Eastern, with first pitch at 8 Eastern.
It's the NLCS. Dodgers, Mets, Game 3.
Brought to you by Shore Physicians Group. Be well connected. Visit shorephysiciansgroup.com.
Kids, work, running errands, sitting in traffic. Life is busy. Shore Physicians Group wants you to take time for your health. Shore Physicians Group offers the highest level of quality, compassionate care close to home, with convenient locations in Margate, Marmora, Mays Landing, Northfield, Ocean City, and Summers Point. Life is busy. Take time for your health. Visit shorephysiciansgroup.com and make your appointment today.
Shore Physicians Group. Be well connected.
What's better than one win? 3 wins. With straight savings, you keep your own phone.